Hey, what's good, self-direct investors? I hope you're all doing great, and I want to welcome you back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jordan. I'm the mind behind Make More Capital, and today we're coming at you with a midweek update in the world of cannabis. So before we jump in, if you enjoy this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it, as it really helps out my channel. And of course, if you want to learn how to take advantage of this generational investment opportunity, subscribe below so that you don't miss any future videos, and then there's plenty of content for you to go back, rewatch, and educate yourself with. I've tried to put all the news and facts in one place so you can watch episodes over time to learn about the evolution of the industry, identify top companies that you keep seeing pop up, and take advantage whenever you're ready. We're going to start today's episode just with this timely tweet from the Dales Report, which reaffirms the tweet that I shared on Sunday from Brady Cobb, who's a DC lobbyist and insider, and had accurately reported the date when Senate will resume consideration for the Senate version of the NDAA. So just wanted to share this because this is coming from a second source, the Dales Report, and it was quite funny because Brady had tweeted that, but then the Senate.gov had actually provided different information to people. So that's why it's good to find these sources that you can trust over time. But point being is that they are going to come back after Thanksgiving, and consideration of the NDAA will resume at 3 p.m. November 29th, with the deadline for filing amendments coming at 3:30. Well, first degree amendments, not exactly sure specifically what that means. The deadline filing for second degree amendments coming an hour before the cloture vote, which is anticipated, which is scheduled for 5:30 p.m. the same day. So I don't necessarily know exactly how this all works, but I'll do my best to learn as we go and relay this information to you. But of course, time for final bets is rapidly approaching an MSOS, as direction of price action to close out the year is likely at stake. So plan accordingly as investors. Now, it's basically a coin flip though. There's good reason for it to pass because it'll get $25 billion in cash off the streets, which makes America a lot safer and stops making dispensaries targets for armed robberies. And at the same time, it'll be the first big incremental and legitimate win at the federal level for this industry, which will be that cover fire for institutional money to start piling in, I imagine. However, if it does not pass, and Schumer somehow has enough power to deny this from passing, even through this conference process, that's just going to piss off more Americans and more politicians. So I don't see that happening, but it is a possibility. So we have to plan for it. Ultimately, though, if that is the case, I still think it's a when, not if. We're just going to have to wait a little bit longer. So I wanted to provide this update onto this news from Marijuana Moment, as bipartisan senators urge passage of marijuana banking through a defense bill, because again, it's good policy. Bipartisan members of key Senate committees sent a letter on Tuesday urging the chamber to adopt language from a House-passed national defense bill that would protect banks that service state legal cannabis businesses. The House approved its version of the must-pass NDAA Act in September with an amendment that would prevent financial institutions from being penalized by federal regulators solely for working with cannabis companies operating in compliance with state law. So now a group of 5 members on the Senate Armed Services Committee, so this is big because we know that it's in the House Armed Services Committee version already, so these are 5 members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, I'm sure Chuck doesn't like this, have asked leadership to ensure that the final package that comes out of the bicameral conference committee retains the language before the measure is sent to President Joe Biden for a signature. So just to share, it's Senator Jackie Rosen of Nevada led the charge with the letter stating that the financial institutions are often reluctant to transact with cannabis-related businesses, even in states that have some form of legalized cannabis, due to legal and regulatory risks arising from inconsistent federal and state laws. Allowing cannabis businesses operating legally and in compliance with state law to access financial services without federal reprisal would address public safety and compliance challenges, helping communities reduce cash-motivated crimes. It continues, which is 100% true. So just to add, others that signed on were Senators Gary Peters, Angus King, Kevin Kramer, and Mark Kelly. So just wanted to share this because this is the kind of pressure that we want, and it just keeps piling on. At the same time, I wanted to share this because the Veterans Affairs Secretary looking at medical cannabis policy change following profound discussion with veteran. And I'm just going to share this one bit here, but the head of the U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs says that while current federal cannabis laws have prevented the department's physicians from recommending medical cannabis to military veterans, officials are looking at the possibility of an internal policy change and have discussed it with the White House. But just notice here is that the first thing that they want to say is they want to blame the federal laws again. It's a lot of finger pointing, but I think this is good because it's pointing at what the issue is, and it's just the federal overhang that should not be there at all. So it just looks like the VA is looking at making a policy change as well. And if they're talking to the White House, I mean, it would make total sense for Biden to just grant clemency and expunge records for nonviolent drug offenders. That would actually give the Dems a chance of being reelected next year. For whatever reason, he doesn't want to do that, but again, it adds to the pressure and pointing out that it's the federal law that is really the main issue. So wanted to share this one as well. A current flash report as Green Wednesday is expected to bring in $90 million in cannabis sales as the U.S. prepares for Thanksgiving holiday. So Akerna predicts that U.S. cannabis shoppers will spend $251 million for the 4 days around Thanksgiving, a 60% increase over average daily sales. The Wednesday before Thanksgiving has earned the nickname Green Wednesday due to its consistently high cannabis sales, and this year should continue that trend. Wednesday, November 24th is expected to bring in $90 million in sales, a 78% spike from daily averages, making it the second highest sales day of the year after 420. Last year was the first time that Green Wednesday beat out Black Friday in cannabis sales, a phenomenon that is expected to repeat this year. So On Thursday, the 25th, Thanksgiving, they're predicted to do about 4.6 million just due to the shortened hours and closures of dispensaries and retail locations. While on Friday, November 26th, known as Black Friday, they're expecting another 88 million, up 71% from the daily average sales. Black Friday will likely become another top 10 sales day of this year, while Saturday, November 27th, is predicted to grow 68.4 million in sales. So we will see in a couple weeks. They typically follow up with how much money was actually spent through their dispensaries in the data system that they have. But if you wanted to take a look at the breakdown as well, you can see that here too. But interesting enough. So hope any Americans out there as well have a great Thanksgiving. Enjoy that, and definitely wind down with cannabis if you can. On to this one from Politico. As new GOP weed approach, feds must get out of the way. So any press for cannabis is good press, and the fact that this is bringing awareness to the fact that Republicans want to solve the issue at the federal level is good for them. And so just wanted to share a bit of information from here. We need the federal government to just get out of the way, said Rep. Nancy Mace, who introduced the first Republican bill in Congress to decriminalize cannabis, tax and regulate the industry, and expunge certain records this past week. She pointed to more than 70% of Americans supporting the idea, which they do. And her bill is far better and has a much more chance of actually passing, even right now in its current form, than Schumer's CAOA, which is still just a draft. It's not like he's not even taking it seriously, which is pathetic on his part. But stronger Republican involvement could hasten a snowball effect on Capitol Hill, where Democrats lead the charge on decriminalizing but lack results due to inaction. It could also chip away at the Democrats' ability to use cannabis legalization to excite progressives and younger voters as the midterms approach, and this is 100% what the Republicans ought to be doing. So just wanted to share this as more good press, or just more press in general, is good for cannabis. While a majority of Texas Republicans back cannabis legalization, poll finds. So this was great. A strong majority of Texans, including most Republicans, support legalizing cannabis for adult use, not even just medical, according to a recent poll. The survey from University of Houston and Texas Southern University found that 67% of Texas residents back the broad reform. 51% of participants who identify as Republican say that they also back legalization. So the poll looked at 9 potential criminal justice reforms, with the red bar reflecting support and the white bar reflecting opposition. And so the question down here was to legalize sale and use of cannabis, and they got an overwhelming support of 67% versus 33%. And so, in my view, this is just always should have been aligned with Republican views, which is especially freedom of choice, and as opposed to having a black market, legalize, tax, and regulate, because it'll create jobs and it's tax revenue, which is all things Republicans typically side with. So either way, this is progress out of Texas, and hopefully we will see some action on this sooner than later. While recreational cannabis nearing enough signatures to force lawmakers' hands, organizers say. So this is out of the state of Ohio. Just wanted to share a direct democracy attempt to force the state legislature to act on recreational cannabis will have enough signatures by the month's end to set a plan in motion and organize their projected Friday. This is a big win for cannabis in Ohio, as we can anticipate cannabis legalization to be on the ballot for 2022. And as Ohio has already reformed from medicinal cannabis, there's a good chance that the citizens will accept adult use as well. While Connecticut calls to open cannabis dispensaries sooner following fentanyl overdoses. And again, this is what you get when you just decriminalize, but you don't see the urgency or the need to create a legalized adult use market. In fact, some police, even the police, are calling for state legislature to move up the opening of cannabis dispensaries to mid-2022 after a spat of overdoses involving cannabis laced with fentanyl. Now, this is not a reality. I do not understand how cannabis can be mixed with fentanyl at all. And maybe I'm fortunate because I live in Canada where we have a legal market, so I can go buy cannabis from the store. But this is, again, when you don't prioritize making a legal adult use market, this can happen and people can die because of it. So this is just why cannabis policy makes so much more sense than prohibition. While Reuters reports that Uber, the still very unprofitable but disrupting giant, enters the booming cannabis market with orders in Ontario. So Uber Technologies will allow users in Ontario, Canada, my province, to place orders for cannabis on its Uber Eats app, marking the ride-hailing giant's foray into the booming business, a company spokesperson said on Monday. And I've covered this in the past earlier this year. The CEO did say that they want to get into this industry, so it makes sense that they'd get into Canada first, and I imagine they're just waiting on the US to end that federal prohibition, while Uber Eats will list cannabis retailer Tokyo Smoke, which would be in partnership with Canopy Growth, probably, because Canopy owns Tokyo Smoke, on its marketplace on Monday, following which customers can place orders from the Uber Eats app and then pick up at their nearest Tokyo Smoke store, the spokesperson says. So guess we don't have delivery yet, but they're using the Uber Eats platform to allow you to go pick that up in person. So good to see Uber getting into this industry. Now into MSOs, though, as Curaleaf announces opening of its 48th Street location in Phoenix, Arizona, which marks the company's 9th dispensary in the state and 112th dispensary nationwide. So just a few few things to add, as Curaleaf's Arizona operations currently employ over 600 people, and with the opening of 48th Street, over 40 new jobs will be added to the local economy. So again, nothing but good things when you end prohibition. While Curaleaf was one of the first operators to begin serving adult use customers in January of this year after Proposition 207 was passed by majority vote, since then all 8 Curaleaf dispensaries in Arizona have seen more than an 80% increase in customer demand, says Joe Barron, CEO of Curaleaf. So Curaleaf's strategic expansion in Arizona will allow the company to better serve the state's existing medical market and the thriving adult use market. So just want to share, as the market is still very hot after adult use legalization, while Trulieve launches TruTonic, Florida's first edible drink. They announced today the launch of TruTonic, a brand new drink powder that is the first of its kind in Florida. So a new product that they're entering into the market. It's quite cool, as Curaleaf has their Select and their Squeeze. Trulieve's now getting into the liquid form, but with a dry powder as opposed to an actual drink. So created from the same cutting-edge, state-of-the-art process that created True Powder, TruTonic combines tropical flavors, fast-acting relief, and mild carbonation, all in a conveniently pre-dosed 5 milligram package. So good on them for continuing to innovate, while Air Wellness, one of the Tier 2 MSOs, enters agreement to acquire Dispensary 33 in Chicago. So Air's entered into an agreement to acquire Gentle Ventures LLC, Dispensary 33, and a certain of its affiliates that collectively own and operate 2 licensed retails and dispensary for Chicago, Illinois. So real question is, how much are they paying to expand their footprint in Illinois? As the purchase consideration is expected to consist of $55 million up front, including $12 million of cash, $3 million of seller's notes, and $40 million of stock. So there will be some dilution to current shareholders for this purchase, while an earnout is payable if certain adjusted EBITDA performance is achieved through Q3 2022. So Air Wellness continues to buy aggressively because I think they know that they have to expand early on, but as we go through time, it's just going to be more and more expensive to get these footprints in these fast-growing states as well. So we'll just notice that the cost to acquire other businesses is going to go up, so best thing they can do is try to acquire cheap stuff now. However, this rebranding look, just not for me. Anyways, onto this from Todd Harrison, as wild insider buys. Jason Wild, CEO of TerrAscend, has bought about, I think, 1.2 million worth of stock, and this was on November 23rd, so yesterday. So this, as a shareholder of TerrAscend, I'm not, but anyone out there, or even just for investors in U.S. cannabis, this gives us confidence that CEOs are, buying back shares, which tells us that they are confident in their own businesses. Now, ideally, we'd love to see this across the board, but we've seen Kim Rivers do it. Now we're seeing Jason Wild do it. It's a matter of personal preference, but this does give us more confidence, I think, in this industry, especially as we've seen the price action laggard a bit, but as the pressure's also building at the same time. So many moving parts. Well, this one is from Roth on U.S. Cannabis from Todd Harrison, so just want to say thank you, Todd, for sharing this as well, making this accessible. Weekly rehash. Potential 280E removal represents material upside for MSOs. Now, I don't know where this potential removal would be, possibly in the passage of the States Reform Act, but in the past we outlined several potential catalysts within U.S. cannabis, ranging from federal legalization passage to potential uplisting to major U.S. exchanges. One byproduct of incremental federal reform that we believe should be closely monitored is the potential removal of the tax code 280E, which is associated with cannabis still being deemed a federally illegal Schedule 1 substance. And now with safe passing, I don't know if that removes 280E or not. It would be great if it did, but U.S.-based operators are still being taxed off of gross profits, resulting in tax rates being 2 times higher than the average rate in most cases. As companies look to achieve operating leverage within their respective businesses, we believe the removal of 280E would bring an immediate boost to the industry and materially expedite free cash flow production. With most large operators reporting positive EBITDA, we are beginning to see the potential free cash flow leverage of the U.S. cannabis industry, and we believe cannabis will eventually see tax regulations akin to tobacco and alcohol, which would be fair. But if we just look at the earnings that we've gone through, and I'll post the links to the recent, well, at least the top 5 Tier 1 MSOs, we look at their earnings. Phenomenal numbers. Most of them are profitable or they're near it, yet they're paying an effective tax rate of like 60 to 80%, which is just ridiculous. But it goes to show how well they're doing, and once that's removed, my God, you're going to start seeing them valued like tech stocks or like Tesla, and investors are going to be a lot more forward-looking with these companies. And so I wanted to share this one from Shooter McGinley. Again, thank you, Todd Harrison, for sharing. From Needham, an investment firm on U.S. cannabis. As multi-state operator quarterly recap Q3 2021, where third quarter earnings complete, we are publishing this recap to provide a visual comparison of the trends and key operating metrics for the group. Unfortunately, he did not share the visuals. However, revenue grew by 74% and EBITDA by 72% year over year for the largest MSOs. The U.S. MSOs possess an unusual set of attributes for such an early stage industry, in that they have among the highest growth rates in any sector, are generating substantial increases in earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization dollars, but have balance sheets capable of sustaining capex and funding mergers and acquisitions that we expect to fuel growth for the next few years. As state-level reforms advance market development, the U.S. cannabis industry is experiencing exceptional growth, and the industry is on track to double over the next 5 years, without a doubt. So just wanted to share this. Don't take this directly to this. It's just an investment firm's opinion, but you can weigh that in with what you already know and see if, whether what they're saying is true or if there's any truth to that as well. Well, this one is from Weed Street 420, so thank you for sharing this. As Dominos are falling in Europe, we saw news of Germany announcing their intention to legalize, and in Switzerland, cannabis will be sold legally from 2022. So just wanted to share a bit of this from November 19th. Switzerland is one step further than Germany when it comes to the possible legalization of cannabis. The Narcotics Act was amended a year ago. Now pilot projects will begin in several major cities in 2022 in which cannabis will be sold for consumption. At the same time, Parliament wants to lift the ban on cannabis and is working on re-regulating cultivation, trade, and consumption. By the end of this year, pharmacies and clubs who want to take part in Zurican, Cannabis with Responsibility pilot project, can contact the city of Zurich. Participants must be of legal age. So it's very interesting. It's just here if you want to pause to read the rest, but it is showing that there is slow but sure progress in Europe. And while lastly, just a few things to share. This is another podcast with none other than Brady Cobb. Same source I'll always reference, but he's our go-to guy, and he basically is just provides the most up-to-date information again that we have, basically just highlighting that the Senate will resume the NDAA consideration after the 29th, and from September 29th through December 10th, because December 10th is when Congress then goes on holiday. Between then, we will anticipate an answer, and we will get an answer for SAFE. And so this was recorded on November 23rd, though, so it is fairly recent. So any cannabis investor, I would recommend listening to it because it's just going to increase your conviction and be like, oh, man, can't wait for this news to come out. But yeah, this is a good one to check out. So all these links will be below. And then lastly, just wanted to share this tweet from Jason Spadafora, Wolf of Weed Street. So thank you, Jason, for hosting this, recording it, and sharing it. I actually missed this one, but here's the spaces from this week that Mayor Toby and I did with Boris Jordan and Haman Shares. Special thanks to Don Stryker for recording it, you legend. Yes, so thank you for Don Stryker for recording it as well. So I wanted to share this. I'm just going to share this brief 1-minute clip from Boris, though. And I love how bullish this man is. He's a billionaire. He has all of this experience. He's built businesses, 30 years doing it, and he's willing to just talk straight to us and tell us what he believes is going to happen. Again, not based on wishful thinking, but experience and him just preparing for it. So
this is embarrassing to the U.S., I think.
Yeah.
I'll be
100%.
honest. Germany, a very conservative country, moving to legalize cannabis while the United States is still fucking around in D.C. and they can't get anything done. I mean, it's embarrassing. It really is. Now, I think it's going to push the U.S. Listen, guys, the stars have never been better aligned for this sector. I want to tell you, everybody, you invest in the top 5 companies, you're all going to do well because the setup right now is amazing. Now, Don't worry about the intraday volatility. Really, just don't worry about it. Now, if you're not, don't buy and leverage. It's a bad thing in very volatile stocks like this. Put your cash, unlevered cash into this and put it away, and you're going to make a lot of money in this sector.
Wait.
There's no question in my mind. Nothing's going to zero. I was just checking in when somebody said zero. That's not going to happen in the sector. It's just not. These numbers are far too great. Can you imagine if 280E goes away, what the numbers are going to look like in these companies?
It'd be silly.
Right. I mean, it's just, today we pay an effective tax rate, everybody, of 80%. I want everybody to understand that.
Yeah.
These cannabis companies are paying an effective tax rate of over 80%.
Is crazy, especially when you consider how well these companies are doing, posting profitable or near profitable quarters despite 280E and their hands tied behind their backs with the federal regulations. So it just makes these companies more attractive when you think ahead and realize that when certain changes are made, which the setup seems as if these changes are going to be in play just because it's the natural progression of how things are, and there's an election next year, and now both parties are vying to end cannabis prohibition. Just can't wait to watch this next year unfold. And so I think Boris comes in at the 33-minute mark and talks till about now. That's all I listen to, but I would recommend tuning in because it's very informative. It's, again, a man with this experience that's just willing to talk to us and share because we see the opportunity he's seen all along, and he's just wanting to help us out. So that is it for today's episode, folks. I want to thank you so much for tuning in, and I really hope you got some value out of it. What did you think of the stories mentioned below? Let me know in the comments if you have any questions or suggestions, and I'd be happy to address them. Besides that, if you enjoyed this video or you learned something, please just leave a like on it. Subscribe below if you don't want to miss any future videos, and I will catch you on Sunday for This Week in Cannabis News. Have a great Thanksgiving weekend, Americans.